Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with New York City jazz saxophonist Daniel Bennett. We caught up with him from his New York home with his family in late April 2020 during the COVID-19 quarantine to have an open and frank conversation about our modern world and the state of jazz. He was full of positive revelations, and it was minced with plenty of reality along with the hope for the upcoming future we simply are not sure about yet. Enjoy.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. I just went out for a nice little walk, so
Oh,
I got
good.
my good energy. Yeah, and I got my caffeine fix, man. I had like 3 cups of coffee this morning. I needed it.
Nice. You gotta do something in these trying days, man.
Oh, dude, it's insane. How are you doing, man?
Oh, it's good. You know, realistically,
Good.
you know, this is the thing. At the end of the day, what I've realized about this whole pandemic and human behavior is anything that you were before is only going to get exasperated and splayed out in ways that are probably similar to what it was before. But if it was bad before, it's only going to come out in stranger and more weird ways. But at the end of the day, man, all of us are going through trauma right now. Every one of us.
Yeah.
And we got to deal with it. We don't have any choice. And it also illustrates how little control we have over everything. You know?
Right. Oh, dude, it's insane.
Well,
Man, this is great. Dude, well, thanks for reaching out, too. I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped for this.
Oh, man.
This is going to be cool.
I've been, when this started, there was a list of musicians I really, really wanted to talk to, and you were totally top on the list. And I just really want to have a conversation about jazz, like, because we're getting to that point where the bespeckled time of our human existence is around March 10th. No one had any idea what was going to transpire. And then everything,
right.
You know, or as we can reterm history as BC, before coronavirus. And so I guess the idea right now is to kind of look at what was going on before, what's happened, and kind of what the hope is. So, you know, I know New York is in a much deeper situation than the rest of the world, not even America, the world. So I should ask you, how have you been doing with being in the epicenter of this pandemic?
Well, first of all, things are good, man. Every day the news gets a little brighter and brighter. And as I was telling the great Sammy Stein, she's a critic in London, and we did a little piece together for Jazz Views, which is a great website. And I was just in the article, I was pointing out I'm not really. People think that I'm an optimist, but really I just fix problems. And if your sink is broken, you call a plumber, not because the plumber is optimistic about fixing your sink. It's just because the plumber knows how to fix a sink.
Yeah.
And that's what creative people do, man. We fix problems. And I've been fixing problems since I launched my career, and I'm sure you feel the same way in jazz media. We have launched our careers and survived all sorts of ups and downs. So this is not new for us in many ways. So for me, everything's, I see the great things happening every day. And it's funny you mentioned March 10th. I actually had a dentist appointment on March 10th, which I went to. And it was a great dentist appointment. And it sticks out of my head. And the funny thing is, I think I actually got in a couple shows around that weekend, before the city shut down. You know, because we didn't know any better. I mean, we kind of just kept doing the venues were open, so everyone went out. I was at my monthly residency at Tommy Jazz in Midtown, and it was great, and it was packed, and it was, you know, but we all kind of knew there was some weird stuff happening in the news. So, you know, it's every day you just fix problems. New problems come up. I've been speaking with a lot of people about this. I had to move my teaching operation online instantly. I teach at the New York Jazz Academy. I teach at Bloomingdale School of Music in New York, and we had to go online immediately. All of my production meetings, I did have to cancel. I had a big recording session that got bumped, so we moved that online, at least as far as planning and stuff. It's talk about great news. I actually called my producer a couple days ago, and I told her, I'm like, look, I have like 4 or 5 clients that I want to send you because everybody wants to make an album when this thing is over, which is great.
Yeah,
There's going to be a baby boom of new music coming out. It's beautiful. Yeah, and I've been encouraging people to just check in with people. I'm so glad you and I are staying in touch, and we stay in touch on social media. Check in with people and remind them that you are committed to their project, because this thing will end. This crazy pandemic will end at some point, and people will love to know right now that, hey, you didn't forget me, or I didn't forget you. The world is still here. We're all still here. We didn't all just go run away. And contrary to what many people are saying, many, many, many people have stayed in New York City. I know this because I keep in touch with people all the time on social media, and my kids I have two kids who go to public school, so I'm involved on all of the online learning, and most of their friends and people that we know of are in the city, and because that's what brave people do. They stick around and they help their community. They fix things. They take care of people who are in need. If someone needs food, we have a friend who's getting chemotherapy right now. She's in radiation and all this stuff, so we bring her food once a week, and that's what you do. You stay, and you help. If you're in danger, obviously, if there's a health risk, I understand. I'm not, nothing wrong with that, but I'm a big believer in staying and fixing things, which we're doing. We're doing. As you guys are in KC also. I read about I know musicians that live there who are posting online all the time. And I should mention too, and I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but I love that you have put out like 10 or 12 interviews this week. John Ellis, Chris Burnett. This is great. I was just listening to the interview with Chris. I love Chris.
Oh, thank you.
So,
thank you for saying that.
Go ahead.
You're right. And this is why I'm doing this, because this is stuff. There's a myriad of reasons why we should all be talking. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a very cathartic, therapeutic thing for all. I think getting this out is like anything else in your life. As you go through trauma, the healthy thing to do is get it out. Now, there's ways to do it. You can do it creatively. You can pick up your horn. I don't have a horn. I have this, outlet of jazz and a show and covering it, and other people have it in different ways. Some people, I've interviewed some people that have literally not picked up their instruments since this happened. They're gardening. They're planning on getting an RV. They're getting back to like things that are just aggro about being alive. There's one, one of the most fascinating interviews, Daniel, that I had just still blows my mind. There's been a handful of them, but I will tell you one of the most transformative interviews that I had was with Theo Hill.
Oh, cool.
And he moved to Costa Rica, and he did it right around the time this happened, and he had already kind of been thinking about doing that anyways. And there's macaws in the background that are squawking, and there's all of this activity, and he's looking at this beach in front of him, and it was just a real transformative, it was kind of like a Waiting for Godot moment. There was a real level of existentialism. There was a real level of, I'm in the moment right now. I'm recalibrating what I find is my Maslowian kind of ideal of how I want to live, how I want to meet my basic needs, and how I eventually want to get to the highest level of my id. So there's been so many things like this, and it's just like you said, if there's been anything, like I always ask the question to musicians, why do you love jazz? The number one answer, no matter who it is, no matter high or low on the food chain of jazz, as far as anybody is going to be concerned, is freedom. The main thing with all of this, with all the interviews, is community. You nailed it. And I won't hear this from 60 Minutes or ABC News or NBC News. No one's going to say what the real story and the things the humans want to know about New York. And it's exactly what you said. You guys are not leaving. You're sticking around. This is your community. This is your life. And this is a creative, cultural cauldron that you guys have created. And you're going to stay around and protect it.
Oh yeah, no, that's absolutely, and it's encouraging staying in touch with people. You're right, but I just think that more than anyone, I think you are just absolutely crushing it right now with these interviews, putting this stuff out. Because honestly, I think certain people in the jazz media are just hiding under their beds right now, and I don't know why. I don't know. There's no reason to be afraid. There's no reason to be afraid. I'm probably the only person that has said that to you this week, but I'm going to say there's no reason to be afraid.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned to Sammy Stein in this piece I did with her, if you're afflicted with this, you have every right to complain. You have every right if you have the virus. But if you don't, it's your job to carry on the work of society on behalf of these people, to help these people but to also carry on the work that's going on. You know, we're not on pause. This is our time to, as you said, stay human. It's cool that you mentioned that about Theo. I didn't know he was living out there. Wow.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah. And, you know, and then there's been a lot of other, like talking to Joe Lovano was transformative. I woke up, well, I don't think I woke her up, but she was just getting up. Diane Scher was unreal. Like that discussion, like she started the conversation, and you'll appreciate this and you'll hear this in the interview, but I just want to put it out there. So she's making coffee and her cat Puss is walking around and she's like, I'm going to make some Deedles caffeinated coffee. And we were just talking and she said, I just got to tell you right now that when I was born, I was in an incubator for 15 days. My mom wasn't around that much and they put too much oxygen in there. And that's the reason why I lost my sight. But being alone at the beginning of my life has set me up for this loneliness that I feel in the desert right now. And I just was sitting there like, oh my God. Like you talk about stripping away every onion layer to the middle of a pulsing soul of somebody's existence. That was probably one of the most, I mean, pandemic or not, I've never heard anybody like, and there was a buoyancy to her voice. There wasn't this, for me, this was what she knows. It's like when you go up to somebody that doesn't have eyesight, you don't ask them what it's like to be blind because they don't know any different. In fact, I make it a point if I interview anybody, like I interviewed Matthew Whitaker about 2 weeks before that 60 Minutes report came out, and there wasn't one time that I mentioned anything about his eyesight because that's not why we listen to him. We listen to him because of his music, you know? And it's the same thing with like Bob Ringwald. I've interviewed him and, you know, I didn't really want to get hung up on Molly, but I'm a kid of the 80s, so I had to throw
so you couldn't resist.
I could not resist.
To.
Oh my God.
Awesome.
And his answers were awesome. And it was really more about, she's a jazz singer. She's always had this love. And it's because her dad put that love in her, but it was more, you know, he doesn't have clear eyesight. I mean, he's not completely blind, I don't believe. But at the end of the day, it wasn't an interview about that. It was what he's done for this Sacramento area. What he's done is kind of being an underground guy playing at a pizza joint every Thursday night, keeping up an amazing listener. So anyway, at the end of the day, I think you're right. This is really a time because when this happened, I really loved WBGO and KCSM. I listened to them a lot. And it's like the first thing in the morning, I'll say to Google, you know, throw on one of the stations, and I love listening to it. And when this happened, when it really set in, I couldn't listen to anything for a couple of days. I was in shock, like totally, like my brain was trying to wrap around what I was going to do. And then I thought probably around the day after St. Patrick's Day, and you'll appreciate this having children, I'm like, I'm going to start doing interviews. My kids are out of school, and I'm going to do these interviews on speaker. And it's really been a good thing. It's been very therapeutic for the kids to hear the interviews. You know, because they feed off of the love that I have, but also a resounding amount of these interviews have been really hopeful. There's been positivity. And we're not getting that from anywhere else by and large. I mean, we just aren't because it's the national media doesn't have good news. You know? No,
it's not, man. And when, you know, literally headlines are written every 30 seconds in America, and it's just insane. So there's, at this point, I think we're just kind of recycling and making up I don't even know. I mean, I talk about this a lot on Twitter. I get my updates from the CDC and from local leaders, around the state. I really don't tune into breaking news because it's usually just kind of like, it's part of the hysteria. But, you know, it's funny, I will tell you this, you know, I was telling my wife this last night. Speaking, if anyone gets a chance, talk to an older person today. Older people have this in perspective, man. They've seen everything. Nothing shocks them. Gretchen's grandmother, she escaped Nazi Germany. Her father was killed in the war. Man, if you call her on the phone, she's in the garden working on the garden, man. She is not interested in talking about the virus. Right. She has her life in perspective, man. Same with my grandmother who's 94. She lives in Detroit. She still gets the Detroit Free Press every day. She's got her crossword puzzle. Man, she doesn't want to talk about the virus. She's living life. She's got perspective. So, that's what community does.
You're right. You're 100% right. You know, I did interview E.E. Pointer great trumpeter, yesterday, Kansas City trumpeter, and he was telling me about a relative that passed away at 104, and she remembers when the Titanic was front page news, and remembered when the Spanish flu was happening, they would put different colored flags on the door. And I think she was retelling a tale of a family down the street where one person got it on a Friday and the entire family of 5 was dead by Sunday. Putting you know what I'm saying? Putting the verity of what this is and the fact that it's treatable versus not treatable and how fast it was sweeping when that was happening. So it's perspective, but you're right, man. I mean, I always feel like that with older people anyways, because when you start talking to them, you know, they've lived and been down all of these roads in a myriad of ways. But the one thing that's unique about this is that this isn't one country. This is the globe, and no one's ever been through this before, you know?
Right. And actually, in a way, and I've talked about this too, that can be very encouraging too, because we're all building back together. You know, it's not like it just happened to New York or Kansas City or just something on the way, you know, like something horrible happened or someone. This is pretty much global, and so we're all rebuilding together. And there's actually great comfort in that. We're all doing it together. We've all gotten our legs chopped off, so to speak. And there's actually great comfort in that. And perspective is crazy. You know, I was tweeting about this morning. You know, Isaac Newton actually was quarantined during the London plague. Can you believe that? And he obviously he went on to do great things after the quarantine was lifted, and he did, you know, life moves on. It was just there's a great article I just posted. I think it was in the Washington Post. I just put it up on my Twitter. Yeah, Isaac Newton, you know, the things that people just, you know, when people study history, we can see that you know, there is great hope, and these things do pass. You had a great image on your Neon Jazz Facebook page. I'm going to mess up, I'm paraphrasing, but it said something to the effect of tough times don't last or something, don't last forever, but tough people do, something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And wow. Yeah, and you know, the funny thing is that I'm a photographer, and you can probably tell with what I do on Twitter and all of that, and I've been, you know, in Kansas City you have a little bit more latitude because it's spread out to get in the car and go, and I've been really going out, and I'm just in the car, I'm not doing anything but, you know, breathing my air, and I'm going, and I'm just taking pictures of everything, every billboard, everything. There was a drive-in that I used to go to years ago that's on the old end of town because I've been getting nostalgic, and I went by and it said, "See you next spring," and half the letters are sideways, and there's just all of these images. and even just signs in a CVS we may never see again, little arrows on the ground, like things that were just like, wow, okay, what's that? Like, I'm trying to kind of get the essence and kind of capture some of these things because it's weird, you know. It's Orwellian, it's dystopian, it's something that we only thought we'd see in movies, and now that it's happening, I think there's a lot of us in our trauma that are just so shocked. I don't know if, you know, we even know how to process any of this, you know. So
right. No, it's true. I mean, there are definitely, there's a certain element. I suppose all of us have repressed some of the feelings, because I don't think even as a human, I don't think it's even healthy to fully like let your brain go there. You know, people, I've had to tell people too, it's not that I'm trying to sound glib about it, because I mean, I've lost work. I mean, I have a weekly hotel gig and a monthly, incredible monthly jazz gig at Tommy Jazz that I've had for over a decade that at the moment are obviously on hiatus, and you know, these are strong venues, so that they should come back, but still I'm sitting here going, you know, there's no guarantee. There's no, you know, I don't have any crystal ball. So, you know, you're right. I mean, I think you have to protect your brain a little bit. When that initial shutdown happened, I think there was just a wave of of like depression. Something just, you know, it's a spirit. I mean, it's, you know, but look, you know what? We're here. We're here. The sun is shining bright, and as I tell my kids every single day, I said, kids, you know what? 99% of the earth does not have the virus. the sun, the trees, it's safe. There's so many things in this earth right now that are safe. Obviously, believe me, I'm following the protocol. They're very strict in New York City. Let's wear a mask. Let's 6 feet. I get it. But, I love that you're going out and taking photos because we have to understand we feel like a nuclear bomb dropped on us. But the truth of the matter is the earth and, not to sound cheesy here, but the birds and nature and everything is still just out there thriving. And there's no, you can stand up. I take my kids to Central Park to the reservoir every day, and you can just look at birds, and I tell the kids, not most of this, there's no virus, just enjoy it. That, we I think the media has just created this situation where humans are just losing their minds because we think it's just everywhere, the virus, and none of us can stop talking about it. And believe me, it's something I'm trying to work on too. Of course, here I am talking about it, but
Well, it's my fault, because that's what we're doing is we're studying about this.
Right.
Because, that's kind of the nature. But yeah, I think, there's a lot of things that, when this started, I'm like, I'm going to get a Frisbee golf set. I'm going to think about things we can do outside. We've never done it. We went out to a Frisbee golf course. I'm outside, playing baseball. We got some chalk for the driveway and, we got some other things. The one thing I did do, and I kind of broke a law here a little bit, not much, but I did. A good friend of mine, and who he lost his wife about 3 years ago. He's the godfather of my son. He's one of my best friends, and I've been trying to wrap my head around all of this. And I was talking to Al Di Meola about some things, and he was saying, we're all going through cancer. We're all going through a death. We're all going through something, and we're doing it together. And I think about my friend and the fact that I now know what he's talking about. Everything's been turned upside down. Now, you could have hope, but at the end of the day, there's still that feeling inside of you. Because if you're like, oh, I want to go to a game, I can't. Oh, I want to take my son to the library. Oh, I can't. Oh, I want to do all these things, and that's what you do probably. Like when you lose somebody, you want to do these things, and you can no longer do it. So anyway, we did a FaceTime one night, and years ago, I found an old door, and I'm a visual artist, so I did a big painting for him, and he wanted me to do another one, a different direction with some different shapes, kind of some abstract stuff. And I was like, okay. So I went to the hardware store, masked up, did it the next day, and grabbed it and went up to his house, and I pulled up, and I didn't say anything, and I was going to drop it off, and his chair was empty. I'm like, I got it. He's inside, he's peeing something. I'm going to put it there, and he's going to come out, and he's going to freak out. And he was across the street. He screamed, hey! And so we're staying separate, and he goes inside. He's just blown away by this piece. And I'm getting ready to go, and we're staying 6 feet apart. He just ran up, and he just hugged me. Couldn't take it. And it was just like, it's one of those moments where, you know what I'm saying? It's like, we tried the whole time we were there, and we couldn't stand it. And I think that's where we're getting to as a people, is that it's just hard. And everything we've been told our whole lives, just think about being a kindergartner, make eye contact, shake hands, go out and see the world, do this, do that, has been completely revoked in a month and a half. Our human essence has been told, don't do this, and we don't know when you can get back to what you've done. And we've been doing this for decades. The kids have been doing it. Their intellectual aptitude probably can't trump their emotional trauma. So it's kind of a hard thing to tell kids. So it's interesting from a psychological standpoint how this is playing out, So.
Yeah. But, again, I just think it's beautiful that we are all literally in the same boat. And I don't know a single person who would disagree with what you just said, that the human essence is still there. And that's the encouragement. We can say all day long, yes, the whole world is on Zoom, but you know what? Nobody wants to be on Zoom. The human spirit is gonna beat this whole thing. It will beat this, and people will be surprised. I know it's gonna take a little while, but there's no way you can reverse these innate feelings that we have towards being close and music and art and just being all of the beauty and the wonder of this world. It's all still there. I don't know a single person who would disagree with how you're feeling, and that's actually encouraging. I think we can we can cling to that a little bit.
Well, the one thing that's encouraging about all of this from a jazz perspective, and this is food for thought, I did talk to a musician from New York that went back home. He's releasing his debut album. He went back home to Columbus to kind of weather the storm and be with his family. And he was telling me, when bebop was born, it was on the heels of a war, along with all the musicians going through an extreme version of racism, clubs getting burnt down during the race riots, and there was no label that was pushing anything for commercial purposes. They did it because they felt it. So he was saying the possibility of there being new births of idioms and new, like, imaginative scenarios for jazz that come about is completely plausible.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I stood up on my roof last night and played, and there were thousands of people looking out their windows. I mean, maybe it was a captive audience. They had no choice. They were bored. So everybody's looking out their window at me. I'm up on my roof. We live in a brownstone, and we got a little roof garden. I'm up there playing. And the human spirit is absolutely unstoppable. Look, we have two friends who these are separate friends of ours who both had kids during this pandemic. One of them had a kid the day that New York shut down. She gave birth to a baby boy named Alex, and man, her Facebook page was flooded with love. And I was joking with my wife. I said, you know what? Babies will always trump everything. Pandemics, anything. The human spirit will win. How are you not going to love that a baby is born, especially during a pandemic? I mean, to me, that's just beautiful, man. I'm like, wow, what a great way to just kick this thing in the face and say, you know what? And I should tell you this: these friends of ours have been having trouble having a baby for years. They've been, in fertility treatments, and so this is a miracle, man. So this is like, what a beautiful thing.
Wow.
The human spirit is there, and it's just not going to die. There's just no way. And that's interesting that you mentioned that about the bebop era. I had these old downbeat magazines from the early '60s. I should send you some of these, or maybe I'll tweet some of these out, because some of these articles, you would have thought they were written a week ago. They're talking about how the Village Vanguard is having trouble getting people to come out and all. I'm like, wow, these are like famous venues. Even in the '60s, man, there was a struggle. I think if we understand the history of this, we would get it that, like, okay, jazz is going to be great. Everything's going to work out. Everything's going to work out. We just got to put some of these really negative people on mute, man. So we've got a few of these jazz critics who just can't shut their mouths for 3 seconds because they're just putting out these negative thoughts. And if we can just mute them for 5 minutes, we can unmute them later. These are nice people. We'll unmute them later. But they just gotta, man. I can't. This is not going to help our scene, and we have to be positive. You can't create anything beautiful if you're just purely from a negative standpoint. From brokenness, you could, but not just from negativity. Nothing beautiful is going to come out of just raw negativity. Yeah.
No. And the interesting thing I've thought about is, say in about 15 or 20 years from now, Steven Spielberg's next of kin or someone like him, there might be a show called The COVID Kids, because, they always say that people that are pregnant and have music and voices that happen around the womb are a lot smarter. And all of these people that are home now that are conceiving could possibly be bringing a new race of intelligence with all these kids that are going to be birds in 9 to 11 months from now. I mean, there could be,
right.
it could be the superior race. And how ironic would the whole twist of fate be that these kids come up with the supreme antidote that would prevent any pandemics from hitting Earth again.
Right. Well, I'll tell you this, man. Kids, look, and you know this. I mean, you have a kid. Kids are so optimistic. You have 2 kids, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Kids are so optimistic. Kids are that's not even optimism. They're just living life to their fullest. That they don't know, and that's just beautiful. I mean, I'm telling you, man, I don't worry about the kids at all. Not one bit. Kids are thriving. Kids will do anything. They'll learn anything, anywhere. They will adjust. They're beautiful, man.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I tell you though, the small blessings are incrediable, and every day there's something. There are these bright moments that we're all seeing that are going to start happening. I'm telling you, that big ship that they sent to New York, man. They're sending it back. That's beautiful. I was just reading that yesterday. I'm like, wow. The big Navy ship that they brought, and they're sending it back, man. They're done with it. It's beautiful. That's, there's a tent city right now. Samaritan's Purse organization has it set up in Central Park, and they're doing an amazing job. But I'll tell you, I'll be happy when when the tent city packs up, man. I'm like,
Man.
wow, that's going to be a great sign.
Yeah. Yes,
it's going to be a beautiful sign.
Oh, yeah. My wife was out this morning when she woke up, heard a massive, loud sound over the house, and they fly over for first responders, and she got to watch the whole processional in the backyard, which was cool.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
wow.
Yeah, so they're doing that, and I noticed that about 3-4 weeks ago, like, it was like a helicopter in front, 6 airplanes, and then another 6 behind it. The 6 in the end were sending out red, white, and blue, and I was like, what is this? And then we read that was, so there's all of these little things that are happening like that are just like, they're, like you're saying, just that indomitable spirit of, you know what, we have to find a silver lining in something because it just can't be like this. This isn't how we live.
Right, and I think, we know this. And local officials know it. That we know it. I think what's scaring the daylights out of everyone really is honestly just some of the news cycle that just keeps, these headlines that are just, they're making up headlines every 2 seconds, and I don't think the human brain can deal with this stuff. And I'm sure most of these headlines really might not even play out, but we just see these things, and but it's gonna get better. I mean, it really will. I'm telling you, the music community is so tight right now. It's unbreakable right now. The unity. I can't even keep up with the number of like house concerts and things that are popping up on my Facebook every 3 seconds. And I've been posting all these like things on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. I mean, it's just, I know it's not the same. I know this is, as they call this is like one-dimensional socializing, but you know what? It's going to get us through this. And if we can just tough it out, I'm telling you, the longer we can just tough this out, man, the more likely this stupid thing's not going to come back in a big way, So I know we're all in it,
Well, the one thing that I've always said, and I firmly believe it is, I've seen a lot of walks of life, a lot of professions, and I have never, ever been around a finer group of people than jazz musicians. And jazz musicians have this unique ability to conceptualize and perform a very high art and remain as humble as possible and be very gregarious. I've had so many interviews, and everybody has always been so deep and honest about who they are and what they are, and genuinely good. And the other thing about it is the caveat is that I believe genuinely that most jazz musicians do this for the art. They aren't doing it for commercial reasons. They aren't doing it because agents and labels are telling them they have to do it. They're doing it because they love it, and that's probably the most indomitable realm of this from a mental standpoint that I think that the jazz community is going to imbue, is that they're going to carry on, obviously differently, but they're going to carry on because they've always done this. Life is improv, and if there's ever a group of artists that can get this, it's you guys, because this is what you do every time. You guys can't Bill Murray groundhog it. There's a lot of people that try to when they perform, but you guys don't. You don't do it on purpose. So if this happens, and it's happened, you guys are masters of improv, and this is your natural element.
Right. No, I appreciate you saying that, and I also think that for the first time in a long time, we're actually making music because people really need music right now, and that's kind of a weird thing to say, to imply that people didn't need it as much, but they really need it now. And really, for the first time, artists are like taking it up to a different human level with the collaborations, and just the output right now has a whole different vibe behind it. There's it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and I'm seeing it just in the jazz media as well. I'm just talking about how many interviews you've been able to do. I mean, have you done probably at least a dozen? I'm just looking at on your YouTube channel. This in the last week.
Well,
you've been putting out, Or
I got to be honest. No. This is all happening. I got to tell you, I got to be honest with you. Since this happened, since March 20th, I've done almost 140 interviews.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, but this is all I can really put out at any pace, because I do have all these other commitments going. But that's been one of the things that I've been doing. I've been really trying to capture what's going on, and I've been really weaving this into my show. My shows have been very upfront about, we're going through this. This is who we lost. This is who's talking about it. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. Making very clear statements at the end of the show. You got to support these guys. You got to do it. I spoke to Emmett Cohen, and he had a live stream he sent me, and I'm going to profile that on the show. My musician and friend E.E. Pointer yesterday sent me over a track that he listened to while in quarantine that he forgot he did, and it blew him away, and it blew me away. And I'm going to put it on the show and have a quote from him. So I'm being very active about this jazz document and making sure that this is the thing that we both remember and celebrate, because this isn't one of those things where it's like, yeah, when we get to another point, we'll kind of do retrospectives. This is the thing right now that's happening, and the world is listening, and they're listening in a very unique, different way right now, and they need to hear, that, hey, people are still out here. We're still doing it. The stories are not stopping because things are different. They're getting woven in a different way.
No, it's true. And I did an interview with Something Else Reviews. It's a great website, and Victor Aaron is the guy's name, and I was talking to him about this analogy. This is not my analogy, but this kind of how this resonated with me. That in essence, it's like we're all in this big airplane, and we just lost like one of our engines just burned out. So, the plane is okay, but we're on this like backup engine, which is cool. But like we're all kind of looking behind our shoulders going, okay, it's a little shaky, but yeah, we're documenting this, and the human element is all there, and it's beautiful, man. It's all going to work out. The human spirit, it's a beautiful thing, man.
It is. And, one thing there was one cat that I talked to that was in Spain, and it was a Sunday morning, and, it was later out there, and he was like, forgive me for the sound behind me. We'll try to do this when it's done. And I was like, what's going on? And he said, well, everybody's out on the balcony cheering on the first responders. I said, well, go ahead and put that phone out there and put it on speaker. So my wife is in the room and my son, and we got to listen to it. And it's like, there's a lot of those things that are real time that are happening that are a part of this that are totally, more, it's a more raw, aggro kind of capturing of moments, than usual. So,
right.
Which is
right.
necessary.
And it's just to see. I got to tell you too, the generosity. I've been following different crowdfunding sites for different venues. Tommy Jazz has a great crowdfunding thing going on right now. And man, if you want to be encouraged, even if you just give like a couple bucks to a crowdfunding site, I do this sometimes in the evening. I'll just go to the site and I'll refresh the page every couple minutes, and I'll watch the amount of money go up.
Yeah.
That the donations go up, and it's so encouraging. If you just want to put yourself in a great mood, just give a little money, and then just go visit that site every night and just check in and just watch that dollar amount go up, because we're literally watching venues basically get the funding that they need right now to get through this. I mean, we're watching it happen. Smalls has gotten some huge donations. I know Tommy Jazz has this thing. I mean, most venues actually that I'm aware of, a lot of them have Kickstarter or some kind of crowdfunding going on. Wow. Really encouraging.
That's great.
Yeah.
I did go get my car fixed at one point. I was in the auto body shop doing my distancing, and there was someone sitting in there, and I was just he said something, and I said, yeah, I think we're all doing the best we can in this global pandemic. And she just kind of laughed and looked over and said something about how she can't believe how much is getting donated to charitable causes around here. And the thing I've always known is, like with the United Way, when the numbers always come out, it's the poorest people that always contribute the most. The people in this country, which is most of us, are on a blue collar, regular level, and we all understand. Like, we've been watching live streams and donating, and we've been doing everything that we can. And that's a function of doing these interviews too, is that I'm giving every musician, it's rhetorical, buy music, donate, do this, but it's like I'm being more pointed, like what can we do? And there's all of these different things that I just didn't even know was out there that can really help out the musicians. So I think that's a functionality of it too, keeping the dialogue fresh, you know.
Yeah. I mean, if every single person, you're right, it seems kind of cliche, but if everyone gives to one or two organizations and is deliberate, I mean, but we're seeing it happen. I mean, we're seeing, and this isn't even the big, I mean, we're going to see some charitable, you know, causes that are just going to just go through the roof as we get into this. So, you know, it's very encouraging. It's great to see. It's great to see these, you know, people didn't go away. I just think when this thing hit, everyone felt like everyone just ran away and everyone became alone. And we're all here. And every single person, as you were alluding to, the whole human dynamic, none of us want to live our lives on Skype or Zoom. We're all here and we're ready to connect. So that's the beauty of it. And the jazz world you're gonna see there's gonna be just a renaissance. That was, you know, I wrote a blog for Bandzoogle, great website. They do web design, but they have a great, like, huge global presence for just music news. So I did one of their blogs, guest blogs, and I was saying, this is the cultural renaissance, man. We're actually in it. I mean, we probably were in it before the pandemic even hit. You know, so we're in it right now, and it's awesome, man. It's great.
I agree. I totally agree. Well, hey, man, I think we've really covered so many bases without actually having pointed questions. So, man, Daniel, thank you for reaching out. It's been a joy to talk to you, and I look forward to connecting with you after the global pandemic is done.
All right. Thanks, Joe. We'll see you later, man.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Daniel for his time, energy, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, support the arts, all of them, and enjoy the music, my friends.
Neon Jazz.